member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. Catherine, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Clyde Wilbur.
This is Clyde Wilbur. I can hear everyone easily, and I'm participating from my home in Springfield.
Great. Bert Kramer.
Bert Kramer, present, Mount Vernon District.
Thanks. Dina Crumbling.
Dina, participating from my home in Rose Hill.
Great, thanks, Dina. Dean Costello.
This is Dean Costello from my home in Springfield.
Thanks, Dean. Kim Larkin. I don't know if she has joined us yet.
I'm on. Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
Kim Larkin. I'm at the meeting. I can hear everybody from my home in Alexandria, Virginia, but it's Fairfax County.
Thanks, Kim. And last but not least, Doug Klein.
Doug Klein, participating from my home in Mount Vernon.
Thank you so much, Doug.
At this point, I request that Kimberly Larkin accept the virtual gavel to be chairperson pro tem so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. Kim, do you accept the gavel?
I will accept the gavel.
Clyde Wilbur makes the following motion. I move that each member's voice is adequately heard by each other member of the Wetlands Board. Kim, I ask you for a second. I need a second on the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Does anyone oppose? Hearing no, you have to actually say that.
I would say hearing no one in opposition, the motion passes.
And you have to give me back the gavel.
Oh, and I will give you back the gavel, Clyde. Sorry.
Okay, and based on this, I conclude that we have a quorum of members and that we may continue. Thank you, everyone. Now we move on to the first agenda item, which is the election of a vice chair. Because Anita Van Breda has resigned, we are in need of a vice chair, and I open the floor to nominations.
Hi, this is Dina Crumbling. I'd like to nominate Kim Larkin for vice chair.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I ask, are there any other nominations? Calling the question, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The motion passes. Kim, welcome
Right.
to vice chairmanship.
Thank you very much.
May you rest.
I do this well.
Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Catherine, who's going to give us an update on the routing of JPAs.
Yes, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to give you an update on a few joint permit applications that I am keeping an eye on for all of you. I wanted to just give you an update on a couple of them. I think the last update I gave you on some of these were a couple months ago. So I think it's a good time for us to sit back through. And if you have questions, please go ahead and, feel free to jump in or stop me for a second. So I think we can go ahead and get started. So you've seen a similar map like this from me in the past, but it's a map showing what I'll call routing JPAs or violations that I'm tracking. So they're either applications that have been submitted and that either, comments have been sent back and we're waiting for resubmissions, or, items that are violations that, we're trying, or potential violations that we're trying to bring into compliance. And then the items here in a red circle, the JPAs or violations in the red circles are the ones I would like to cover tonight. And the locations that are in orange are either violations or potential violations. And the items in yellow are JPAs that have actually been submitted to VMRC and are in some phase of a review. And then the couple that are not circled that I'm not going to be discussing tonight are just JPAs that are kind of in a holding pattern for a couple different reasons. One is, property owner may have not determined or decided what they want to do yet. One is an applicant is waiting to coordinate with their agent, their contractor, who I believe is on a medical sabbatical. So, there's no real update there. And then one is just, VMRC and myself have communicated comments and we haven't received a resubmission of a JPA. So the first JPA I wanted to mention is one we've discussed before, where this came in as a violation because the work was complete and when it was a complaint. And this was to install, so let me go back to the map real quick, because that'll help. So we're at 4001 Bell River, or Bell Riv. So this is down here in the Halloween Point neighborhood. And we did, since we alerted the property owner that there was, some work done without a permit and was completed, they have since sent in a JPA, and I believe we provided some feedback to them. And then at this point, I'm working to calculate a mitigation fee that I believe at this point will likely be applied to this property and to the work that was done. So kind of more to come on this as we move forward. But that's the status of that item. The next one is 11371 River Road. Let me go back to the map real quick so we can get a frame. So this is also kind of down in the Mesa Neck Peninsula here. And this was another complaint, or I believe it was, I can't remember, but I believe it was a county code enforcement officer noticed that riprap had been placed. And so again, a JPA has been submitted. The applicant believed that they had received an approved permit from the Corps of Engineers, but it hadn't been communicated to VMRC or the Wetlands Board, and no permit had been initially filed. So we met with the property owner and provided some feedback on the JPA, and this is in the same status as the last one, where I'm trying to work with the property owner to create a mitigation fee. So more to come on this one in the upcoming weeks and months. This one, go back to the map. It's 5709 River Drive. When we went over Bell River Terrace, I'm sorry, that was up near George Washington and Mount Vernon, that area. But this third application we're talking about is 5709 River Drive in the Halloween Point location neighborhood. And this came up recently. This was a citizen complaint that I heard about from, again, a code compliance officer at the county, where there has been no JPA submitted yet. The property owner appeared to be working to repair a bulkhead with putting in new planks and riprap. And it's my understanding from the code compliance officer at the county who I worked with, or who I spoke to, that the work was being done by the property owner himself, and that he was just using contractors to deliver wood and stone. So I have coordinated with the property owner. I've obviously talked with Mark Eversaw, and we have a tentative site visit scheduled for October 20th. So once we have I didn't update the status correctly, I apologize, but the status update would be that, we have an upcoming site visit. I will know more then after the site visit, and obviously we will be working with the property owner to submit an application to try to bring this up to and into compliance. Like I said, this probably came up at about 2 weeks ago, a week ago. So it's the status of something new. This is a Little Hunting Creek. It's a Fairfax County Force Main project. It is a project that's going to be submitted here, or it was submitted within the last week or so. And so Mark and I are starting to take a look at it. Mark Eversaw and I, we've had a phone conversation about it. It's quite a large submission because it's the proposed project is the construction of a sanitary force main. And from an initial review of the application, that is an approximate location. So it goes across and essentially underneath Little Hunting Creek there. So we have not scheduled a site visit yet. I myself wanted to take a better look at the application before trying to schedule a site visit, but I would think we would get out there in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And so that's a new one. And then I wanted to give you an update on this violation at 10625 Green Drive. Again, this project, based on a complaint, we found that work was maybe, 80 to 90% complete. This is the property, or this is the project where we issued a stop work order and notice to comply. We had a show cause hearing in August, and the applicant submitted a JPA in August that included work for repairs to a bulkhead, a boat slip, pilings, whalers, and installation of catwalks as well. And we performed, we meaning myself, one member from the Wetlands Board, BIMS, and DCR visited the property on September 8th, and which I'll get to in a minute. I'll share some of the findings from BIMS and DCR. But at this point, I provided written feedback in August to the property owner, to the applicant, on their JPA application. And then I believe it was within the last week or so, last 2 weeks, Emily from BIM sent her recommendations for this project. And so those have been sent to the applicant as well and their agent. So at this point, we're waiting for resubmission of the JPA. And for this slide, related to this property, I wanted to just summarize some of the key components from the BIMS report from Emily. Her recommendations with, again, feedback from DCR, the Shoreline Erosion Advisory Group as well. Really we're focused around these 5 things. One would be that the newly constructed bulkhead could be cut down in such a way that the top is at the mean high water elevation. The gaps to the mean low water elevation would need to be incorporated on each side to allow for adequate tidal flushing and the egress of the aquatic fauna at low tide. That the existing pilings that were placed could be left there at their current height and would still allow for possible increases in the sill height to combat against sea level rise. She also suggested grading the bank a bit and planting, adding some plantings that would provide appropriate wetland shoreline, that would help with the wetland shoreline stabilization with specific grading to hopefully avoid damage to a large maple tree that is right there. And obviously planting native riparian plants in that planting graded area. So I believe that is the last slide I have for the JPA updates. I would be happy to answer any questions or there are any.
Yeah, Catherine,
any of these.
probably better that we wait until we get a response from the applicant.
Okay.
Still expecting. They've got all this information. It's now in their court to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, I do have some questions. I guess this seems to be an ongoing problem with contractors just doing work without the proper permitting. I was just wondering if it's something that perhaps, you know, the county we could perhaps send letters or something. I don't know why the word is not getting out to these people that you just can't do stuff without proper permits, and even just contacting VMRC. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has any suggestions, but it seems to be an ongoing issue that is pretty typical these days.
Yes, I hear you, and I wholeheartedly agree. I will mention a few weeks ago, I reached out to one of our code compliant managers in our land development services department, and she oversees the ordinance and the compliance of the RPAs for the entire county. And I asked her if she had any suggestions on outreach, and she gave me a few things. And so maybe at the next wetlands board meeting that we have, I can provide you all an update with a few ideas that I would like to push out on, you know, maybe at the very early start of 2022 calendar year. And then obviously I'd be open to feedback from you all, right? If we can get out in front of some of this, I would hope.
Yeah.
If I could ask, Mark Eversole, can you comment on whether or not VMRC is active in reaching out or other actions with these contractors that we've had trouble with?
I really can't, Mr. Chairman. We deal with the contractors as the applications come in. We're familiar with most of the contractors in the area from county to county, and we do talk to them. I might suggest that some of this violation, you know, we've seen the 4 or 5 violations we've seen in the last year might be a little related to COVID shutdown and poor communication, and that's just a suggestion. But there do seem to be a lot more violations than in years past.
Yeah, I agree. The other question I had, and Catherine, I'm all for your suggestion to see if, what you can come up with. The other question I had is for the county sanitary force main. Because it is
Yes.
a county-sponsored project, is that under our jurisdiction? Do we have jurisdiction on that action?
I will be honest, I have not had to have to need to review a county initiated project like this. So I've not run into this yet, and I haven't had a chance to look back in some of our.
So Kim, if I could, the Huntington Wall went in without an application. And the previous chairman was most displeased. And while our comments to the county may be advisory, I believe they've made the decision that they would like our comments. I wouldn't, I don't think we really need to get into whether or not they need a permit or they actually don't. You know, if they're going to give us an application, I think providing our comments to them would be worthwhile.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted the other board members to know that we may not be issuing a permit on this because we may not have the jurisdiction. I'm fine with providing comments to them
Right.
on the action.
But, you know, the county can certainly ask for a permit. That's up to them.
Yeah, I will be looking into that. That is definitely a question that I need to run down. And so I can obviously brief you all via email or, you know, at our next meeting about this and what that decision or determination was. But thank you, Kim. I appreciate that for sure. Any other questions?
I don't think so. Catherine, I don't know if you were here for the last Huntington Creek thing that came up, but I know that one of the, we did have somebody speak and they were mostly concerned with the sediments containing PCBs and some nasties in Little Hunting Creek. So some of the water tests that have been done there do show some latent. So I know they were worried about stirring up the sediments.
Okay.
Just so you're aware of those are probably comments that we're going to get. So it may be something that we take into consideration.
Sure. And you said that was for a previous application?
Yeah. What do we have on the creek?
The dredging.
The dredging. At yeah, across the, yeah. Woodley Manor, Wood something like that.
Okay, I will look back at that too to see what kind of archival thoughts we had.
I think it was just last year.
Maybe. Anyone else? Maybe. Let me get through, advance my slides here for a second. Moving on to the next item, Clyde, I'll just jump into this if this is all right
Sure,
with
go
you.
ahead.
I wanted to give everyone just a very brief update. This is the only slide I have on the comprehensive plan amendment and the related zoning ordinance revisions that I've been working on, obviously, and have briefed you all on. Tomorrow evening, I'm presenting to the Planning Commission about this. And I'll just put this out there that speakers, if you're interested in that, can register for in-person or online slots. And we're still targeting a public hearing for the Board of Supervisors in the evening of Tuesday, November 9th. And you can watch both presentations tomorrow evening and also November 9th on the county's channel, live stream channel 16. I will say that the plan amendment topic is is, I believe, the last item on the agenda for tomorrow evening with the Planning Commission. So I would say use your patience there to and listen to the rest of the Planning Commission meeting. You may find it interesting.
Catherine, is the ordinance also laid on the agenda?
No, the Planning Commission only has the authority to review plan amendments.
So the
and-
ordinance is not on their agenda tomorrow.
Correct. They have all seen it because the proposed changes to the ordinance were an attachment to the staff report that I wrote for the plan amendment. So they have seen them, but they have no authority to approve those. The ordinance will only be something at the Board of Supervisors meeting on November 9th.
Which is on the 19th of November?
9th. I'm sorry, the 9th.
Very good. Okay.
Does anyone have any questions about this item? Okay. Moving on.
I can add a comment to this before you go on.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to tell the board members that there has been some discussion out there on the zoning ordinance revision for living shorelines. Actually, you know, it's the entire wetlands ordinance. There have been questions coming from citizens, EQAC members, Supervisor Stork's office. The regulated community has awoken to the new law that was passed in 2020. There have been specific questions about the need to adopt the ordinance as specifically proposed by the Commonwealth. And the county attorney has confirmed, both back to me and to Supervisor Stork's office, that the ordinance pretty much has to be adopted as written. You may recall that the previous vice chair asked for some small changes, clarify the ordinance, not change it. And the county attorney said we could not even do that. However, the board is able to provide its own guidance. We can modify portions of our own guidance, and that's really the subject of the next agenda item. Does anyone have any questions about this before we move on to that? Okay, let's move on. So what Catherine has put up here is the outline of what I think is the best board book we've ever had. She put together last year for us. I'm sure you all pull out this board book and read it every night to be prepared for things. But I've noted here in red areas that we may want to re-examine or update. You know, for example, we're talking about a new ordinance. So the ordinance that's in the board book will be out of date. I don't think that the sand dune ordinance is impacted. But, you know, let me ask that question. Mark, we're only talking about a wetlands ordinance. Is the sand dune ordinance affected at all?
No, sir, I don't believe it is. I think it was the Wetland Act that was updated, or House Bill 776 addressed the wetland zoning ordinance.
You know, it does create sort of an issue in that the House bill, you know, talks about climate change. So we'll have climate change for the wetlands, but not for the sand dunes, which is a little odd. Well, we'll have to figure that out as we go. Going down a little further there, we do have a living shoreline policy. I think that needs a rewrite. The Virginia living shoreline requirement, we have a new guidance document to place in the board book, I believe. And while we have a new supplementary information form, I would like to discuss, you know, potentially adding to that. So to kind of comment on this and tee up the request I'm going to make next, we do have the very fine VMRC guidance, and it provides a minimum set of requirements for applicants to address. it is expected that the best available science will be the principal and driving criterion for living shorelines. However, there are additional secondary considerations that an applicant may wish to bring before the board. But if applicants were to look through the current documents, they would not have any way of knowing that these other considerations might be brought forward by them. So I would like to propose developing a living shorelines policy that informs wetlands landowners of how the board will attempt to address living shorelines, best available science, and in addition, provide some guidance in how secondary considerations may be at least brought before the board. And if I could, I'm going to just list some of these that we have heard from various individuals in the Commonwealth. They could be things such as the presence of septic systems, the loss of trees, which we have, by the way, loss of tree issue in the current sand application, the energy of the water body, boat traffic, cost to remove a seawall, cost to remove a living shoreline, and property use impacts. I don't expect cost to be a principal consideration, but right now the property owner doesn't even know how to bring it up. And my understanding is that there was at least one local wetland board decision where cost was a deciding factor in addressing whether a living shoreline was needed. And that was sent to the VMRC board, and they sent it back, not rejecting the idea of cost, but that the consideration of cost wasn't balanced. It was just a cost. No argument made that it was too expensive or too low. So, I mean, the applicant has no way of knowing, how to make that case. And I do think that this is an important thing for us to address. Also, I think we need to get across to landowners that seawall bulkhead is very, very important. As we've seen with the sand property, once you lose the bulkhead and you've got wetlands behind it, you're really not putting that bulkhead back up again. And I think we need to make that clear to owners. And everything I've just mentioned here are the kinds of things that are now being talked about with the Board of Supervisors offices on, what is the impact of this going to be? Am I going to have to remove my seawall? Am I going to lose land? I think we need to clarify some of this with a policy specific to Fairfax County. What I would like to discuss with you is the potential of creating 4 small subcommittees tonight. Now, to remind everybody, we can create a subcommittee of 2 people to go study something and bring it back to the board. No more than 2 people, but they can communicate questions about what they're doing back and forth to the board through Catherine. So the 4 subjects are: 1, I would like 2 people to just go through the manual and, confirm that they think that, it does everything that they need to know and that other people might need to know. I do think specifically we need to do a living shoreline policy update. That would be a second group to incorporate all the things I've just discussed. Catherine has a new supplemental information request form. I think we could add to that a checklist or other items. I'd like 2 people to work on that. And finally, there is an outreach brochure that is probably quite out of date at this point. So I'm going to stop there and just ask for discussion. What do people think about, board members think about just trying to update this board book with those 4 things?
Is there any other components other than those 4 objects that would need to be addressed?
Well, Catherine, can you look at this table of contents, right?
Mm-hmm.
this pretty much lays out everything the board does and is controlled by. So the reason I said it would be good to have someone or a group of two just to go through the whole board book would be to answer the question you asked. Is there anything else here that we really need to change?
Right, I mean, obviously the first item at the top, the zoning ordinance, that's just a copy of it, so we would put a new copy in, you know, once the Board of Supervisors adopts our chapter 116 of the county code here. You know, the board roster at the bottom is what it is. The JPA form application, we must use the JPA application that is actually created and maintained by the Corps of Engineers. It's the same application form that VMRC uses. So there's really no change to that. And, you know, there's no change also to the mitigation and compensation, policy. And our bylaws are not changing as a group. So I think we've hit on everything. It's just a matter of,
Yes, Catherine, but they could. They could. So those bylaws have been in here for a long time. The compensation policy was written prior to have this new guidance from VMRC. So what I'm really asking is for a group of two people to go through those and ask, you know, should we make any adjustments to those? Because those policies and the bylaws, they're issued by the Wetlands Board. We approve those ourselves.
Yeah, my concern, and I can take a look at that. This is Kim. Yeah, I'm concerned about the compensation policy because living shorelines takes more space typically, you know, and typically, you know, these days it won't require mitigation. So we need to look at how the policy blends with the shoreline focus.
I think your point is well taken. If somebody, you know, puts in a living shoreline, you know, typically we would not charge a mitigation fee. But, you know, there are places under the new guidelines where even if a living shoreline is not applicable, elements of a living shoreline might be added. Now, will we waive the mitigation fee in that case? So it's that sort of thing. And I think every different aspect of the board book might be worth thinking about. And Bert, did you ask that question? I'm not sure.
Oh, it was me, Dean.
Yeah. So yes. And, you know, now, you know, to me, the most important committee assignment here is the living shoreline policy. And the current living shoreline policy really, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't really inform the applicants of the issues. And I would like to be one member of that committee, but I would like an assistant. Would somebody else volunteer to join me in working on that policy?
This is Dina. I'll work with you, Clyde, if you'll guide me.
Certainly, by all means.
So I'm not really a policy person, but I'm willing to do whatever I can under the tutelage of someone who understands policy things better.
Yeah, that would be great. So I'd like to just do this by acclamation. Anyone object to me and Dina working on the policy, the Wetlands Board Living Shoreline Policy? No one's jumping up and down to say no, so we're going to say we're going to go ahead with that then. The next piece here is somebody to go over the manual. Could I have two volunteers to just walk through the manual together and see if they would modify or update anything?
I'd like to do that if you don't mind.
Very good. Yeah, do you want to do it alone or anybody want to help him? You don't have to have two. You could just do it. That's fine.
Okay.
Great. How how about the supplemental information request form? That form is it's pretty formal right now, and Catherine did a good job of updating it, but I think that needs to be well coordinated with the living shoreline policy and perhaps could use a good checklist. Kim, is that something you could lead?
Yeah, I could lead that. And I'll also, Dean, I'll help you. I just really want to look at the compensation and mitigation policy with the shoreline policy. So I'll help you with those two sections. I think those are going to be the most difficult in the manual as well. So
Okay.
I'll help with that checklist. Yeah. And information.
So for the outreach brochure, we need somebody with good public relations skills. And that's not me.
I can try that if there's a helper.
I'm sorry, who is speaking?
Doug.
Okay, Doug, you're in.
Hey, this is Bert. I'll work with Doug on that as well.
Thank you.
Very good. I think this, that may be the most important thing we do, because I want to tell you, we got some nervous people out there right now.
When we heard it with the discussion earlier tonight, but how do you inform contractors, and nobody's mentioned the banks.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. Very good. So what I would like to ask is just for each of you who volunteered for something to just give us a very quick update at the next meeting. You don't have to have the thing done, but we should have something going on. I will tell you that the county attorney's office has volunteered to assist, in particular with the living shoreline policy. When the conversations are going back and forth to the Supervisor Stork's office, they became involved and were concerned that the supervisor wasn't happy. So we're going to make sure everybody is informed, if not happy. Before we set a date for the Wetlands Board meeting, I thought we might jump to the meeting minutes review. And I would like to suggest that we table the August 10th minutes because I have a raft of comments on them. Does anybody else have comments on the August 10th minutes? Hearing none, I move that we table those minutes. Hearing no objection, we're going to table them.
I'll second that.
Secondly, I'd like to move both the March 25th and the July 8th minutes together. Do I have a second?
Second.
So discussion on those minutes. Does anyone have comments? So I have just two comments. One, EQUAC is mentioned in the minutes once or twice. It's just an editorial issue that can change. There might be a misspelling or two, but those are really minor. All those in favor of approving the March 25th and July 8th minutes?
Aye.
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 Anyone object? Motion passes. Catherine, do you have a proposal for the next board meeting?
That's a great question. So our meetings so far this year have been March, July, August, October. We seem to be doing a pattern of almost every other month. I know that December can be a bit of a dicey time for folks. So if there's not much interest in meeting in December, we could push it to January. I don't
So-
know, I guess that's open for
Now it's-
discussion.
Catherine, that we're due a report on the sand progress on November 10th. But I don't think we need to have a meeting for that. Just an email from you telling us what's going on, I think would be adequate.
Okay,
You're not going to get an application by then, and you know, if you could just send us an email how things are going on November 10th, that would be great. Now they have 120 days to submit something. I think that's when is that? That would be at February.
about 4 months.
So we're probably going to have something out there somewhere, but all these other applications, do you see any need for action in December?
Mm. There's a possibility for sure. But like I said,
Well, do you want to pick a tentative date so we've got some in case it pops?
yes. I would say if we could avoid Tuesdays in December.
Does the board members have a day of the week they'd like to avoid?
Tuesdays is a good one to avoid.
You all want to meet Friday night, right? All right, I'm going to propose Monday, December 13th as a tentative meeting date. Does that sound
Okay.
acceptable to everyone?
That's fine with me.
It's far enough out, we can block it out.
Is 7 o'clock a good time for everyone?
Yes.
It works.
And I
It made me
can,
nervous tonight. Is 7 good for you?
Yeah, 7 works. I had to download some, I don't know.
That's all right.
They updated my computer and I had to download something to get into the meeting, so. Took a
That's-
minute.
That's fine. It's not a bad thing to keep your chairman nervous once in a while. Okay, Catherine, if you could send out a notice for that, that would be great. That's on everybody's agenda. Thank you. Everybody who volunteered for a committee, let me point out that if you produce a document or you have any questions, you can send that to Catherine and she can reply back to you and blind copy all of us. You can't communicate directly with us other than your other member. But you can ask a question of Catherine and she can, through the blind carbon copy, inform all of us of that question. In which case we can get back to you through her. So it's a little bit convoluted, but that's the Sunshine Act we live under. Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, and all Catherine has to do really is just reply back and say, thank you for sending me this statement and copy everybody. She doesn't have to make a big deal out of it. Okay. I see one additional person here, Kelly Atkinson.
Yes, Kelly is.
She's with the planning, isn't she?
Yes,
Yes.
she's
Hello,
a
Kelly.
branch chief. Sorry.
Hello, Kelly.
Yes,
It's-
she's a branch chief and she is the branch chief for the Environment and Development Review branch in which I work. And so she replaced Denise James.
All right. But we don't have any public here to ask for comments, right?
Let me check. Hold on. I think there are 3 people that are on the line. So let me go ahead and move them, reassign their
Yes.
their
Good.
access to the call, and we can open it up if any of them have any questions, and I will unmute. I will unmute all of them, just in case. Let me see. Yep. I think everybody's unmuted, so if there's anyone from the public who would like to.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. My name is Brian Peoples. I'm an attorney. I do waterfront, riparian, environmental law. And I really just want to thank the chairman for putting out a policy that addresses what homeowners need to know when they're putting in these JPAs and after the fact JPAs for living shorelines, because I've done work really all around the Commonwealth with different wetlands boards, and there's not a lot of consistency, and some wetlands boards are looking at absolutely nothing but the VIMS report. But there are other factors that should be considered. Practicality, the engineering feasibility sometimes of what VIMS recommends, cost for sure, damage to neighboring properties. Those are definitely things that need to be considered, and the board still, in my opinion, still needs to do the public benefit, public detriment, private benefit, private detriment analysis. And so I think sometimes some of the wetlands boards really just look at a VIMS report and say, well, that's the answer, and vote just on that. So I just really want to say thank you for that. That'll provide some good guidance, I think.
Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Anyone else have a comment? No other members of the public being present? Board members, do any of you have a comment you'd like to add before we close the meeting? You're a quiet bunch. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
I motion to close the meeting of October 5th.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done. Thank you, everyone. That was a great meeting. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you all.
The meeting is closed. Yeah, the notes were really interesting. My name got spelled many different ways.
We'll fix that. Sometimes it's hard to.
You can call me anything you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Listen into the planning commission meeting tomorrow.
I can't. I've got an EQUAC meeting.
Oh, of course. I know there's a bunch of meetings happening tomorrow.
Yes. It's like it's our life, right? Meeting to meeting to meeting. Mark, thank you for attending. I appreciate you showing up every time.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
All right. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thanks.